There's a Tom Waits song called Big in Japan. And if you just listen to the lyrics of it, you might be a little confused, but it's about a weird phenomenon in the 80s and 90s and even a little bit into the 2000s where artists, particularly musicians who weren't super successful in America, who had a little bit of name recognition but weren't super popular in the United States for some reason, got really, really popular in Japan, and Tom Waits was one of those guys. And I think to myself, just kind of reminds me, I don't understand why Japanese stuff is so okay. Let me rephrase it because I do understand why Japanese stuff is so popular in the United States. It's because Japan was occupied by the United States of America after its war. The U.S. constrained their culture very much because they wanted to remove any elements of militarism or anything that could cause a potential trouble source. There's a Scientology term for you, a potential trouble source to their occupation. And so they kind of molded Japanese culture and Japanese society into something that was more conducive to the United States. And therefore, Japan is the most westernized Asian nation by far, and therefore, it is the most easily accessible for Americans to access. I said accessible twice. And also, on top of the fact that Japan has had a long tradition of drawing things, and obviously, anime is huge and has been exported to the United States since Dragon Ball made it big in the 80s. But I just gotta understand why, like, it's such an element of our fucking, especially in my generation. I know I'm talk about my own generation a lot, but why is it that everybody my age in particular is super obsessed with fucking anime and like NGE in particular, Neon Genesis Evangelion? I don't understand it. I've watched the first 3 episodes of it, and I don't get it. Like, I admit, it's visually pretty fucking beautiful. But so is King of the Hill, and it looks like King of the Hill, and I watch King of the Hill, and I generally consider it to be a much more entertaining thing. I don't think it's a matter of pacing. I think it's a matter of the fact that I just don't find anything interesting is happening. Like, yeah, there's a robot fight. Whoa. Shinji's sad. Okay. Okay, here's another example. I was really trying to get into it once. Like, actually trying. Like, seeing which. Watching some pilots and shit and seeing which ones were conducive to me and which ones weren't. And I was told to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I watched the first 34 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I did not fucking like them. I tried to get through the whole thing and I got to the part where they were talking about an ice wall, or I got to the ice wall, and I just thought to myself, no, this is boring. I don't want to watch this anymore. The dialogue was rote. It was very one dimensional. The I mean, it's like everybody was saying exactly what they were thinking at all times, no matter what. There was very little subversion, and when then there was, it was kind of obvious, kind of telegraphed. It just wasn't super interesting to me. What else? I've seen the pilot of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I didn't really like it. I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't think there was anything to write home about it, though, either. It was just JoJo's a bad son. Dio's a better son. JoJo's dad likes Dio better. Here's something about a mask you don't care about on the wall. Okay. Uh, there's a show called Mob Psycho 100, which I actually liked the pilot of that, but it wasn't really culturally translated very well. You could tell it was made for a Japanese audience. Death Note is not made for a Japanese audience, and I figured that out because I was watching the Japanese dub, because I always watch subs. I was watching the subs of Death Note, and the teacher asked the guy, what's his face, Light. Yeah, that's the name. The teacher asked Light, like, recite this sentence in Japanese, and he said that to Light in in Japanese. So it's like, okay, this was written in English with an American audience in mind. I'm just going to assume that from that weird thing that happened there. And with that in mind, it does kind of feel a little like an 80s movie. What else? Watched the first 20 minutes of Mobile Suit Gundam. It was alright. First one. What else? I remember watching a little bit of Dragon Ball Z Dragon Ball Z Kai on Adult Swim when I was little, and I watched them bury Vegeta, and I cried. I remember watching Stray episodes of Kill la Kill. That was fun. What else? What else? Yeah, it's basically my anime experience, more or less. I've spent a lot more time watching stuff like, South Park. I don't really watch South Park anymore. I find it kind of crass, but I used to watch a lot of used to watch a lot of South Park, Bob's Burgers, Futurama, stuff like that. I don't know. I've been told to watch a lot of stuff. A lot of people tell me to watch Doctor Stone. That looks good. Also kind of weird. What else is there? I don't know. Oh, I've also seen Howl's Moving Castle, and I watched Ponyo when I was really little. But having watched Howl's Moving Castle, I gotta admit, it felt more like a Disney movie than it didn't really feel like anime the way people described it. It really just did feel like a Disney movie that happened to be animated by a Japanese guy. It wasn't bad. It was really fucking good. I'm just saying. But I think all the Ghibli movies are like fucking distributed through Warner Brothers, right? I don't know. I guess I can go on Hulu. Oh, one more thing. Akira. I remember throwing Akira on Hulu when it was back on Hulu. It was on Hulu for a little while, and I remember throwing it on just as like background visuals. And I remember looking up and saying something cool like, "Whoa, that looks fucking awesome!" Whoa, and just putting my head down and going about my day. Well, that's it. I'm not saying I'm not saying I have some kind of horrible prejudice against fucking anime in general, like some people do, or manga, because I know there are like some really fucking good horror mangas. I haven't read them, but I know that like horror mangas are some of the best fucking horror on earth, like period. Especially, I've heard that like that Junji Ito guy. Apparently, he draws some of the worst, most fucked up horror some people have ever seen. But in real life, he's actually like really sweet, and it's like 90% of the time it's like that with fucking artists, you know. I mean, there are some cases like Andrew Dice Clay where it's like he's an asshole on stage and he's an asshole in real life, and like John Candy, where he's a nice guy on stage and he's a nice guy in real life. But then most of the time it's someone like Bill Hicks, I'm an asshole on stage, but in real life I'm a super nice dude. You know what I mean? And usually it's the other way around too. Dr. Oz. Oh, I'm a nice guy on TV. In real life, have some valerian root. Fucking Red Dead Redemption 2 snake oil salesman. Red Dead Redemption 1 snake oil salesman, I should say. Alright, see ya.